Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you very much. I think we've all had a very good interaction these 2 days. And for some of us, this is an opportunity to let you understand some of the challenges we have been facing, and hopefully some of the policy issues that would actually assist in promoting better investment in our country. Basically, I think we've been talking about SDGs, and as usual, I think all the speakers have mentioned that it is a good thing, it's a good process to follow. But however, it should not be generalized, and there is a need to focus these within the country scope and its priorities. And therefore, I recommend that there is a critical need for effective prioritization of projects that provide commensurate benefits for economic development. And therefore, we should not just take the SDGs as they are and just fit it into a black hole, which might not actually meet the priorities of our country. Secondly, I also do mention that there is the need for a comprehensive public investment system that actually organizes these priorities around national economic growth and development objectives, but which also ties into the overall requirements for meeting international benchmarks. And I'm sure, our colleagues and our counterparts in the international arena would ensure that this is done. I continue to say that this will provide a platform for matching domestic resources with external resources and identifying possible gaps for funding by all sources of, especially where the private sector can be encouraged to do so. Furthermore, it will provide certainty of stability of long-term revenues, as projects have been prepared comprehensively to make them very bankable. So the need for an effective public investment process. Furthermore, I also say that we want to ensure that institutional capacity and effectiveness are improved and exist. We have been asking some of our development agencies to actually assist us in establish a project development fund. And what we intend to do with this fund is to identify priority projects, infrastructure projects, and to prepare these projects effectively, so that even when these the same institutions put money in support of the private sector, these will come out and meet the necessary requirements and objectives. We are also saying that there should be an insistence on required enabling framework that covers the policy, regulatory, legal, evaluation and monitoring mechanisms that should be in place to ensure that some of these investments that are put in meet the expected returns. We are also saying that we want clear, unambiguous and well-tried support systems or mechanisms for the public and private sectors. Example, for the establishment of this fund that I mentioned, supporting public sector to prepare projects, and provision of also viability gap support for diverse projects, especially for projects that are economically viable but may not be financially feasible. We also saying that we need to put measures in place to enhance domestic long-term debt funding. That is ensuring that our macroeconomic frameworks, as Carolina mentioned, is very, very key. And therefore, macroeconomic stability is necessary in ensuring that we are able to provide domestic funding. Exactly, I think we also mentioned the issues about pension funds. I think the problems we've been having at our end is the framework within which these pension funds have been provided. And therefore, there's a need to look at the framework and to make sure that these are streamlined to assist the funds in actually providing long-term funding for most of the infrastructure projects. I also mentioned that local content is very key. In actual fact, the transfer of technology to the indigenes is a way of promoting continuity and sustainability in business systems and business development, all geared towards economic development. And therefore, once we get investors coming from the international scenes, it's important that the locals are also involved. I mentioned again, the last point is I mentioned that there is the need for social and economic buy-in by all stakeholders. Therefore, there's a need for effective communication mechanisms which should be put in place to involve all stakeholders. Very often, government undertakes projects or government undertakes certain decisions without consultation and effective involvement of all stakeholders. And this oftentimes leads to misapprehension and the opposition will say the government is doing this, the government in power doesn't even talk, even because they believe they are in power, and that's what it is. And I'm sure most of you understand some of these systems that are taking place. These are a few of the policy issues I think we should take into consideration in ensuring that the SDGs can actually be effectively undertaken by the various countries. Thank you very much.